Hi, welcome back guys to FicFusion, this series about what if Naruto had power of time travel. A younger woman was standing on a cardboard box with some trash in it. One no longer, in contrast to many extra that could have been observed across Konohagakure, in particular within the spring season. Whilst humans have been tidying up and throwing out the trash that they'd as leftovers from wintry weather, the substance and contents of said container mattered little to the 12-year antique girl. Most effective its place within the important district of the village. The actions she finished at the said box were quite in contrast to what any common villagers had seen earlier, than causing crowds that couldn't were known as small to collect round the child and have a look at her peculiar behavior. Konohagakure was a ninja village through and via. Human beings that lived in it is able to have lived underneath the phantasm that it turned into no militaristic status quo. But they were not quite right. The village made its due from ninja performing missions for each its villagers, and the village itself, maximum of the time ninja confronted off towards other ninja and no vicinity, that advantages from violence and struggle, can be called non-militaristic. As many rights these villagers loved, as plausible as this illusion of peace, became they lived within the village of hired muscle, that did now not turn away from killing. Perhaps that became why this woman proved to be so interesting to the target audience. The woman with a slightly tanned skin and dark hair, tied at the back of her lower back with a brow protector, with the leaf's mark carved into it, carrying a casual flowery black dress, similar to what regular women of her age wore, and sandals changed into appearing tricks for the audience's leisure. Her overall performance consisted of tricks both easy and utilizing ninjutsu, something that not that many human beings have visible earlier than. Ninjutsu changed into made to be a device of murder and stealth, a device of engaging in the project to hand, and this child changed into the use of it for the entertainment of the target market, making innocent but especially visually attractive sparks, the use of her natural affinity for sleight of hand as a kunoichi to fast hide and reveal gadgets. The general public ate the little female up. The girl opened her eyes within the morning, as sun felt its need to blast all of its luminescence into her closed eyes slightly in advance than the young genin might have loved it to. She scratched her worn-out eyes and sat up looking across the vibrant room. Her really irritated and worn-out eyes slipped again to the piece of cloth illustrating one of her favorite books that became striking on her window, appearing as a cowl, as a mean to guard her from the mild. The woman's hand reached up and tore it off with a brief pull. "Thanks, I'll consider this, Shikio-kun," she thought, sarcastically thanking the character who turned into depicted at the cloth. The illustration was one of his iconic battles with the Kurigakure ninja, which became presently tough to believe when in fact he failed his responsibility to protect a young lady from daylight inside the morning. Lifestyles became virtually in contrast to fiction. Mana, while will you get down? You don't want to be late for your one-time thank you tour, do you? Father's voice echoed from below. The person changed into a Chunin of Konohagakure and had quite an effective voice. He become greater of the intellectual kind, so he had that positive coloration of self-belief and energy to his voice, without making it sound too husky and dark. He had the perfect voice for a teacher, however he used it to berate the fighters that fell into the traps of Konoha's awesome trapster, as he became regarded instead. The best cause why Mana knew all of this changed into due to the fact from time to time father's buddies collected, and they saved telling the female all the memories, constantly sounding so pleased with all the violence, continually making her doubt simply how tons of the content material of those testimonies become genuine. Without a doubt Hibiki-san couldn't soar 15 meters inside the air to seize the scroll they were speculated to retrieve. Proper Mana jumped out of the mattress and slipped right into a white blouse, buttoning it lazily and making the mattress. These days was surely a unique one, and that supposed something, having in mind the fact that she just graduated from the Ninja Academy 3 days in the past. These days changed into no longer presupposed to be the day of her existence as a ninja, but this changed into more of an afternoon for magic. The woman had an ordinary little hobby for a kunoichi. She performed magic hints on a cardboard container complete of trash for every person to peer. It became an abnormal factor to do for individuals who did now not understand the deep hidden which means of Mana's behavior. This female, with messy darkish hair, that become everywhere in the location and skin that turned into numerous sunshades, quick of making all and sundry assume she become from Komagakure, become virtually a completely non-violent and kind soul. She despised the belief that ninjutsu turned into art for killing. To Nakatsumi Mana all existence was sacred and magical, ninjutsu was part of lifestyles, so it changed into just a special form of magic. a magic that turned into intended to shield the supply of all magic lifestyles. Due to the fact Mana believed that ninjutsu became magic which was supposed to guard the more potent magic, she had to specific that belief. She had to show all of us that ninjutsu became now not intended for killing. However, instead it could be given any variety of meanings. Relying on the person who used it. The hunched and sleepy parent slothfully stumbled down the stairs from her room into the kitchen, where mom had already made her a few pancakes. Mana's mother worked in a cafe similarly into the village middle called Nakatsumi Cafe. She knew all varieties of bizarre dishes and beverages. She knew a way to make that bizarre espresso drink. A lot of villagers came to her home for a gota just to strive it. For a few motive mom wanted Mana to avoid it. Perhaps it became a few kind of alcohol or something. The woman slumped down at the chair and commenced stuffing her cute little cheeks with the breakfast. A kitchen knife flew and dug right into the column of pancakes that had been stacked within the middle of the desk. I'm hoping you're not going to thank Mr. Hanada like that. You do recognize he backed your act proper. Mom spoke. The woman turned into a type 1 however had an instead feisty character. She become also the best one inside the family, with the darker skin, making Mana by some means wonder if she wasn't the only whom the little ninja magician inherited it from. I'm going to dress up and do my hair later, mother. I want to spend as little time in that uniform as possible. The lady replied after swallowing the breakfast. By means of now the knife flinging did not bother her one bit. Excuse me, mother yelled out with a smile and a funny tone. We made that uniform collectively. You recognize. Positioned it collectively from scraps of cloth. The circle of relatives shared fun. Hanada is a crook though, father spoke. He had his Chunin vest on. Most in all likelihood he was speculated to run off on an undertaking pretty quickly. Yeah, in some way would not feel too terrific understanding that my daughter's act took off because of someone with any such reputation. Mom scratched her brow as she became still working the pan with the reinforcements to the pile that become currently at the table. Well, he can be a slimy bastard however. I bet he's an admirer of art. Let's just wish it's his artistic side that is interested in Mana, and not the only I would be satisfied to pound. Father concluded the subject and finished his tea. Well, I'm off, tell me how it went. He said his farewells and dashed off as Mana and mother waved him away. Sooner or later, not too lengthy ago, Mana became doing her informal factor, running on the one's little magic tricks she did, and a person in elaborate attire approached her. And after the little show changed into over-provided to sponsor the primary years of her performances in a village hall within the northern district of the village, simply in case if she become willing to take it further. The corridor became mainly used by actors who saved gambling the equal memories over and over again. Adventures of Shikio, testimonies from the extremely good shinobi wars, tales of a gutsy ninja, which, to be completely sincere, to Mana appeared quite just like a hentai story from little she had seen. Clearly, the younger magician felt an awful lot obliged to go back Hanada the prefer in a few way. She determined to present him a display for free. Display him what he became financing. Luckily enough his son's birthday became just around the nook, so he felt very satisfied. Approximately all of that. Children did incorporate the vast majority of Mana's target audience in any case. They also had been pretty company supporters of her craft, which in terms made the mature villagers study her with the "she's no longer hurting everybody anyhow" stares and smile as they surpassed by means of the card container that Mana achieved on. That changed into the plan for these days. Later she'd have to teach for a little bit due to the fact father advised her that quickly she must get hold of a letter about the meeting of her group. That was just the manner things went in the village. Genin worked in teams. No longer that the girl wasn't enthusiastic about meeting them. After the breakfast, the young magician rushed to get a shower and to dress up. The magician uniform did appearance weird, but it turned into a laugh in a manner. She appeared like a little monkey in it, and it changed in a tight. No longer a aspect Mana might have cherished to be stuck in a combat carrying, but she gave the impression of a fancy female guy in it, which amused her rather. The young Kunoichi became one of those women that didn't mind searching adorable. Manifestly, she become instructed about the practical attires inside the academy. However, all through her days off she failed to mind searching silly, just for the sake of it. Her mindset towards clothes matched one toward ninjutsu. If one wanted they might have just had a few fun with it and not cared about the outcomes. Father additionally regarded pretty happy about the uniform. He also gifted the girl with a seal in her round top hat that could have been used to seal matters into it and United States them. Unfortunately sufficient Mana wasn't professional enough to apply it yet, but father stated it is a present for the future. Besides. After slipping on her magician's uniform and becoming it with all the card decks and tools she used for easy hide and display hints, like spring gadgets, that could have been loaded with mild gadgets and then simply shoot them out, whilst flicked for a visible impact. The girl favored herself inside the mirror for more than 1 second before giving herself a playful smile and dashing down the stairs and rushing off after waving her mother goodbye. With a gradual and assured step, Mana was keeping off into the big western district of the village, which became all just huge mansions and large homes that made the small domestic of the Nakatsumi circle of relatives blush like a schoolgirl being complimented. Feeling a chunk apprehensive, the magician pressed a button which in turn made a mild flicker, making a few hired safety gather up close to the entrance to check her. Those men were not ninja, they had been all mercenaries. However, quite a few the mercenaries commenced as a ninja earlier than mucking something up, or they lived out of doors the village walls and grew up in an adapt or perish form of environment, making them simply as sturdy as a ninja and plenty greater crafty. Choosing a combat with them would not be true in any manner, and annoying them could be a poor demonstration of Mana's manners. The guy stared the weird-looking kid down and permitted via with a grin. Additionally, they have been type enough to steer the magician into the mansion and handed her over to Hanada Katsuo himself. The man become a mogul who built his fortune on an aggregate of enterprise and fortunate breaks of the proper people disappearing on the proper time. Being in his presence wasn't quality to the female in any manner, but he become her sponsor and he or she could not help it but accept his small donations, only for as long as her suggests take off. The man turned into a tall and well-constructed gentleman. He wore instead fancy attire, comprising of a white silk blouse and a vest. His overflowing golden hair and gentle facial capabilities, blended with what gave the look of eyeliner and makeup, made him look a little too female for Mana's consolation. But his abnormal looks wasn't the most uncomfortable thing. Approximately this guy, being an advise of justice and peace and a Kanoichi of Konoha, the lady suspected she'd must take this man down, while he will become too ambitious and makes a mistake. But for now she turned into sensible to stay on his right side. I'm pretty satisfied which you determined to accept my offer to carry your artwork to the stage instead of cardboard boxes. I remember the fact that you will be too younger to recognize this, Mana-chan. However, artwork is a business, and your artwork is so special and peculiar. It's that means is so yet unseen, that an artist like me cannot stay neutral in its presence. My son Koji is right there. He and his friends can't wait to witness what you do. I should praise your attire, it's as an alternative classical. As you may see in case you go searching, I'm a person that sees the cost inside the classical. The man made a gesture for Mana to go searching and witness the limitless statues and art that turned into everywhere in his domestic. Somehow this just made the woman experience less cozy as she felt like she become no longer in contrast to this bad busted up statue of a bear woman, petrified and placed on show, her hands broken, so she cannot face up to due to the fact her art fairly depends on her benefactor. No way. Men, it's Konoha's sorceress. The teenager inside the steeply priced looking armchair yelled out and jumped up pointing at Mana as she and Katsuo entered the room. Konoha sorceress. Mana looked at Katsuo. He shrugged and smiled like a litterer would smile being caught red-handed. Idea of it has a sure ring to it. All suitable artists have degree names you recognize. Use it at your discretion, or do not if you don't love it. He laughed out earlier than turning round, wishing Mana excellent good fortune and leaving. Mana looked at the kids and teens that were watching her, looking ahead to appear a miracle. Whilst she became performing on a cardboard box without a care inside the global, it felt so exceptional. Now she turned into almost stage apprehensive. You would possibly need to transport now, Mana ordered herself when the pause have become a piece too uncomfortably lengthy, because the woman extended her hands. Okay, who wants to see a magic trick? Mana smiled via her newly located level fright. She became beginning to get used to only for her target audience to cheer on. People in a militaristic ninja village hardly ever got to have some amusing artwork turned into alleged to change all of that. And Mana's art became pretty not like something anybody may also have visible. Perhaps that was why she changed and is starting to choose up some popularity across the village.